Imagine bringing your baby home from the hospital and they sleep wonderfully. Maybe they're sleeping through the night, maybe they're only waking up a couple times during the night, but regardless, you are not complaining about how your baby is sleeping. And then they turn 4 months old. You turn to the internet and everyone says, "Welcome to the 4-month sleep regression. My baby still doesn't sleep through the night." Ugh, first of all, stop taking to the internet. Second of all, this is going to seem like that moment in parenthood where you're like, oh, 4-month sleep regression, what's a sleep regression? Like, what are developmental leaps and milestones and this and that, and like all these growth spurts and everything, like there's an actual science to it. It can be very, very, very overwhelming. So today I'm going to break down all the things that you need to know about the 4-month sleep regression. Okay, the first thing that we need to do is define exactly what the 4-month sleep regression is. Now, this definition is actually going to be the same for any sleep regression at all, but you can classify a sleep regression as a period of disrupted sleep when your baby's sleep may have been better before. This can be seen in trouble falling asleep at bedtime, waking very frequently during the night. Maybe your baby is waking more often than they were before the sleep regression. Maybe they're having early morning wake-ups, trouble falling asleep at nap time, taking short naps. All the things are happening to your baby's sleep and you're like, what the heck? So I have a list of 4 things that are going to help you better understand exactly why the sleep regression is happening, and then I'm gonna give you 4 more bits of information that are going to help you get through the sleep regression. Point number 1 is that your baby is going through a developmental milestone. Specifically at 4 months old, your baby is becoming more aware and alert. They are more aware of their surroundings. Your baby's motor skills are improving. So you're gonna see, and I will never forget the moment when my oldest, he had this little monkey bouncy chair and he would always swat at like the bananas and like whatever was hanging down from the little arch thing. And I remember the first time he actually grabbed it and held onto it, and I don't think that he was totally aware of what he was doing, but the fact that he had the motor skill and ability to do that was just like, woo, amazing. So you might be seeing those changes in your baby as well, and of course you're going to see changes in their sleep. But the reason why it's changing their sleep is because their sleep patterns are completely changing. Up until this point, your baby was spending a lot of their time in a deep sleep, and now their sleep has become more adult-like. Their sleep patterns now are going to be pretty much the same for the rest of their lives. They've officially developed a circadian rhythm and an internal clock. This is when your baby is starting to spend more time in lighter sleep and they're more easily disrupted. So maybe you've noticed that up until this point, you've been able to take your baby out anywhere and they would sleep on the go, really kind of no matter what their surroundings were. And now you may be finding that to be a little bit more difficult. And that is because they are spending more time in light sleep. Point number 3 is about your baby's increased level of awareness. So they are more aware of what is going on around them. So typically I see a lot of this sleep regression emerging with the alertness and awareness when families try to have their babies sleeping and taking naps in the living room so that you can kind of keep an eye on them. So maybe you have them sleeping in a pack and play while you're watching a TV show, or maybe you're taking a nap, but you probably have some sounds going on around them. This is going to become so much more difficult because your baby is aware. It's probably really bright and loud, and maybe there's just a lot going on, and your baby will be unable to sleep through that. And point number 4, this is the one that really kind of pushes this whole regression over the edge, is your baby's sleep associations. Now, up until this point, this is going to be something I repeat this entire video. Up until this point, all of these things were okay before you got to this point. So maybe you were nursing to sleep, rocking to sleep, any of those things, and maybe your baby was sleeping better and more soundly and more consolidated through the night because newborns are having more time in deep sleep. But because after this 4-month regression, we're like, it's a regression, but like really it's a progression because they're progressing into adult-like sleep patterns. But anyways, your baby is probably waking more frequently during the night, and the only thing that they can do to fall back asleep is whatever you did in the first place to get them to sleep. So this is where we talk about sleep prop associations. So if your baby is used to nursing to sleep at bedtime, they're probably waking up throughout the night needing that sleep crutch all over again. Okay, so now what do we do about all these things? We know these things are happening. How do we get to the other side of the sleep regression? Now, I'm gonna give you 4 of my biggest tips to get through this. Don't feel like you need to take notes because I have a free guide for you in the description box down below. It is my 5 tips to help improve your baby's sleep without sleep training. This is a free guide. It has all of the information we're gonna talk about in this video, so do not feel like you have to remember every single thing. It is in the guide in the description box, and I will also pin it to the comments, so make sure you grab that guide. Let's talk about how to get through this. Tip number 1 is to have consistent and predictable routines. Babies thrive on consistency and predictability. So that means you're following an eat, play, sleep routine. You have a consistent nap time routine, a consistent bedtime routine, and you're doing the same thing day in and day out. It may seem a little bit overwhelming and kind of annoying and tedious at first, but even as grown adult humans, we also thrive off of consistency and routines. So the more you get into the routine, the more your baby gets into the routine, the more predictable their days are going to be, the more easily it's going to be for them to sleep and stay asleep. Tip number 2 is that you want to start encouraging self-soothing. Now, this does not mean that you have to sleep train your baby, but it does mean that you could try giving your baby 1 independent nap in the crib every single day. If they'll do 2 naps in the crib, that is fantastic, but it's not a requirement at 4 months old. At least 1 nap during the day should be attempted in the crib, and also falling asleep in the crib at bedtime. So maybe that means that you're standing next to the crib while your baby is falling asleep at bedtime, and you are patting their cute little belly because you're putting them down to sleep on their back. Maybe you're rubbing their belly. You probably don't want to like play them like a drum, but maybe you're rubbing in gentle circles, or maybe you're rubbing the side of their face or the bridge of their nose until they fall asleep. It's still a sleep association, but if they're falling asleep in the crib, it's better than falling asleep in your arms and then waking up when you try to transition them into the crib, correct? If you're nodding your head because that's something that you're doing, you're getting them to sleep, and then you put them in the crib and they wake up, then this is your sign that maybe it is time to officially formally sleep train. But let's keep going. Okay, the next thing that I also discuss in the free guide in the description box down below is how to set up your baby's sleep environment. Now, maybe you have a beautiful, cute, sweet themed nursery, but you don't have any blackout curtains, or maybe you don't have any white noise, or maybe it's just too dang hot in that room and you're layering the baby with too many clothes. Maybe your baby is too hot, maybe they're too cold. You need to make sure that the room is between 68 and 72 degrees. All of these things, they really do contribute to having better, more consolidated sleep. I know there's the argument of have your baby sleep where there's lights and sounds because then they will be able to sleep anywhere, but to be quite honest, that's not gonna give your baby the restorative sleep that their brain and body needs. So why give them less restorative sleep when you have the option easily available to give them the restorative sleep that they need? It's a no-brainer for me. The 4th tip that I'm going to have is to be flexible. As much as I'm saying to have your routines and your schedules and stay consistent, it's also important to be flexible. Every baby is different, and perhaps one wake window, your baby is awake for an hour and a half, and then they sleep for an hour and a half, and they wake up really well rested, and maybe the next wake window can be 2 hours. It's fine. Be flexible, and if you know your baby is not showing any sleepy cues, then it's okay to push it 10-15 minutes a little bit. Not all the time, but if you notice that your baby is really not tired right now and they're really not gonna fall asleep, give them a little bit longer. Wake windows are a range. They may not always be exactly the same, and that's fine. Don't forget to grab the baby sleep guide in the description box down below, your 5 steps to better sleep without sleep training. Now, if your baby is over 4 months old and you are ready for sleep training, check out this video next for the easiest way and the fastest way to sleep train your baby without using a full-on cry-it-out extinction method. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and keep blooming. Mwah.